where life coaches, like anything else, are not magic pills, just like a speaker isn't, right? Like a speaker can show up and it can be the best speech that anyone has ever heard in their life. But if you do jack with it, then guess what? Nothing changed.
They're speakers, authors, and real-life rock stars, bringing you life-changing thoughts that rock, taking conversation all the way to 11.
Most shows only go to 10.
Well, it's one louder, isn't it? These go to 11.
This is Thoughts That Rock. Now, here are your hosts, Jim Knight and Brant Menswar.
That's right.
What's up, everybody?
That's
Welcome
right.
to Thoughts That Rock.
Yes.
Thank you.
Please.
Keep it down.
Thank you.
Keep it down.
Thank you.
Welcome to the best podcast that you're listening to right now.
Yes, that's good.
It's Very Dish, right?
We can claim that.
We can, and that's a fact.
It is.
Thoughts That Rock, that's the name of the podcast. I hope that you've been listening. This is what we do. We take a topic, one topic, and sort of dive into that because we know people are going through some things. And so if there's an issue or an obstacle, we love attacking that and giving people 3 pieces of life-changing advice around that topic. And man, we have some people who have always talked about this topic before, and we thought this would be great because we know somebody who actually plays in this space. What's our topic this week?
Our topic today is how to find the right life coach.
Yeah.
Which we have a bunch of friends who are sort of in the life coach business.
Mm-hmm.
We have a bunch of people we know that have no idea what life coaching is
That's
about.
true.
And would never think that it would be something that they would need. But I think after this episode, they might change their mind. Our guest is our dear, dear friend, Melissa Wiggins.
Yeah.
Coach Mama Bear, as you would know her on Instagram or any of our other things that you might follow online. She's incredibly popular. Our first 2-time guest on Thoughts That Rock.
I didn't realize it till we were in the middle of the interview.
That's right.
It was fun.
Yeah, that's right. And so, Mel is somebody who, Scottish born, you will hear that right away, was a lawyer, ended up with her oldest son coming down with stage 4 neuroblastoma, and she started a nonprofit called Cannonball Kids Cancer after her son Cannon,
which we have supported since day one on the show.
That's right. That's right. If you listen long enough, you know that we are proud supporters of that organization. Which is basically there to find options for kids who've run out of options. The work they've done has saved many, many, many lives, has provided well over 600 options for kids who had basically been sent home to hospice. And Cannon is doing well. He is still fighting the fight. Being a survivor isn't all puppies and rainbows. It has its challenges.
Yeah.
But still going strong, and super proud of him and his continued fight, and super proud of Melissa for the work she's doing, because she's taken that into a coaching practice and really being able to work with people to help them overcome whatever they think they have in their life that's their mountain, right? She's faced it. She continues to face it. She's not somebody who doesn't get it. She gets it. And this conversation we had with her, I think, really lays down a couple of strong foundational points. If you want to, first of all, if you don't have any idea what a life coach does, you'll know what it is after this.
Yeah.
But secondly, how do you find a life coach that's going to work for you?
Yeah. And honestly, I think even just those few words that you said in setting her up doesn't do her background and her biography justice. Seriously, this would be one of those ones you want to take a moment to just go take a peek in the show notes.
Yeah.
Because she's amazing, and the interview was just fascinating. We had a lot of laughs.
Of course.
We think you guys are going to love it. Check this out. There she is.
Hello.
Coach Mama Bear is with us.
Mama Bear in the house.
Hello, lad.
In her own house. She looks exactly like we said she would look. Fashion forward.
Yeah.
Perfect.
She always looks good.
Yes.
We've yet to see her look like shit.
Yes. We're
We've
waiting
tried
for that day.
We've tried for years to catch her on a bad day, but she does not know what bad days look like.
Remember the first time she appeared on our show and she was in full-on 80s gear?
I do.
She said she was on the way to a party, but I don't believe it.
I
think
feel
this is
like
casual.
I need mad props for that gear that I wore to your Because we didn't really know each other that well then, okay? Just to be
That's
clear for
true.
the listeners, we didn't really know each other that well. And I showed up in
Right.
full 80s makeup, hair, the whole thing. So that was really the
Yeah.
start of
Yes.
our love affair here with Thoughts That Rock.
Yeah. And we weren't even in this theater. It was at my house. And she said she was going to a party, but we don't really
Yes.
know what she was doing in her life.
Exactly.
You know what? I just thought about this. She's the very first guest that's ever repeat. We've never had a repeat guest on Thoughts That Rock.
Really?
Now that I think about it, yeah.
I think you're right.
Congratulations.
There you
I feel
go.
so special
If
right
I
now.
had something to give to you, we don't have any awards. do we?
Everybody fell in love with her, Kentucky accent.
Yes.
Give us more,
It's
y'all.
here.
We're going to get some of that today. So listen, our topic today was how to find the right life coach. And obviously, in addition to all the other things that Melissa has done in the past and what she's even doing now, she has found a real calling, right? Like this is what you've been doing, and we're going to talk about that. But man, we're just lucky that we know you personally, that we see people constantly on the hunt
You're
trying to
welcome.
find. Yes,
You're welcome.
yes. We will give you a little bit of credit.
Yeah.
So it was perfect. What a great match, because this is what you do, and we know you personally, and we're just honored that you're on the show again. So we're kind of throwing the ball over to you and just let you run with these three amazing thoughts that rock on how to do this. So how do you find the right life coach? What's your first thought that rocks?
My first thought that rocks, and first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be back, of course. Number one is, I was thinking a lot about this, and you guys are probably going to be like, that's so basic, but I really don't think everybody thinks about it. And it is decide on a budget. That is number one.
Decide on a budget.
Decide on a budget. The reason why is, listen, we could say that, you know what, a Lamborghini is totally going to fit me, right? This life coach that charges $50,000 is going to fit me. But if you don't have the budget and you haven't decided this is how much I'm going to invest in this part of my brain for this season, then, it's just not a good place to start. So decide how much you would like to invest is number one. Brant knows this. Like, some coaches charge $50,000 for a year. Some charge $10,000 for a year. So I always ask my clients when they're coming to me and they think about this, I say, ask yourself, what is going to feel slightly uncomfortable to spend, right? Slightly uncomfortable, but not going to keep you up at night. Like, that's the indicator of where your budget should be, right? Because we all know that people that pay attention, right? But how much is really the thing. That's number one.
Yeah, and I think part of it becomes I think the whole life coaching world is a very niche-y market that a lot of people don't even understand what it is. They think you're just a cheerleader and you're just gonna come on, you can do it, and it's so much more than that. And when you start throwing around numbers in the thousands of dollars, I think, at least a quarter of our audience just shit themselves because they had no idea that it was that expensive to work with a life coach, right? And so, but what would you say the range, I guess, give us a range of what you've seen for working with a life coach. And then what I'd love for you to do as well is maybe explain the different ways in which you could work with a life coach. It's not, let's say someone didn't want to commit to 6 months with a life coach. They only wanted to do a shorter deal. Like, what is a range from low to high? And then what are maybe a couple of different ways that life coaches offer programs?
Yeah, it's such a good question because, and I love to use the analogy of, it's like dating, right? Like, you literally have to get to know someone before you're going to say, yes, take my $10,000 for 6 months of coaching or whatever the cost is. And so for anybody, I would say the first thing to do is really get the smallest offering that they have and just see how you jive with them, right? Like, and we've spoken about this before, Brant, because I started off my coaching career as like an entry point is $10,000. There's nothing less than it. I don't have anything else. And you were like, well, like, you know, there are other people that might want to work with you, Melissa, and you're not giving them an opportunity to get to know you. And so I now have things where you can do 4 weeks of 1 hour a week for $4.95, right? Like it's, and I do that when I'm looking for my coach. Let me do something they've provided that's on the smaller scale end, and then see what they're really about. So treat it like another thought that rocks is like, treat it like dating, like get to know them, follow them on social media, listen to their podcast. The first business coach I ever hired, I listened to her podcast for 1 year before I hired her.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I liked a couple of things that you just said. So first of all, there are a bunch of different ways. If you're working with a life coach that's worth what they're charging, there's usually several ways in which to engage. And sometimes that first way might be as simple as a podcast that you're listening to. Other times they might have pre-recorded material that is much more cost effective than working with them one-on-one in a live scenario. Instead, they have a course that they sell that might be a 4-week, 6-week, 2-month, 3-month course, whatever it's going to be. And it's a fixed cost because you're not actually having an opportunity to speak with the coach directly. Some of them have group programs as well, where you participate in a group. But you know, the thing that really, and you and I have talk about this, we continue to talk about this because I'm never not shocked at how expensive some of this stuff can get. And Melissa recently went out to Texas, or was it Texas or Arizona that you went to? With Amberleys. It was Houston, wasn't it?
Texas was Amberley Lago, and then Tampa recently was Brooke Hemingway.
Yeah, so she was out with Amberly, who's, you know, incredibly successful, amazing woman. But she had somebody in her network there that's like $100,000 a year to work with.
Wow.
And I'm like,
and there was like 4 or 5 women, 4 or 5 women in that room that were coached by him, and every one of them at least trebled their income for the year after a year of coaching with them. So they were all making 7 figures in their businesses after spending a year. Yeah. So it's like, that's why I say treat it like an investment, right? Like you don't go all in on one stock straight away, right? Like you literally decide, oh, like, let me see how it does and how my results are. And then, like when you start to see this is the person that's really helping me make the results, then of course you're going to do that. If you know, listen, this is a season where I want to push into my business, and everybody she works with, they make at least treble the amount. Sign me up.
Yeah. Well, you do retreats too, right? That are short few days, and it's a great sort of intro into getting to know you on a little bit of a more personal basis, but then really sort of understanding it's a different culture. I mean, that's what I think that a lot of people don't understand. It's a very different culture for people who are really into personal development, and they really want to, you know, sort of reach their peak performance in their life, no matter what they define that as. But, you know, these conferences that are held are not your typical corporate conference where it's, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to be bored for the first, you know, half a day. I'm going to yawn my way through a couple of speakers. I mean, this is like super high energy, super getting you pumped up. And they invest in you in a different way. And I think that's, for some people, they love it. For other people, they don't understand it at all.
And it's like, to quote you, Brant, like it is a non-negotiable. If you are in the coaching industry, you have a coach. It is a non-negotiable. Like I'm not hiring a coach if they don't have one. It's literally a question I ask. Like, what work are you doing on yourself? Because you can't give me what you don't have, brother.
Right. That's right.
I guess you said something earlier, Melissa, you know, saying the word investment, I think is another way of looking at it, because, you know, you could probably equate this to also being speakers. I think people have the shock and awe when they find out how much a speaker who is worth their weight. If they actually have done this before, they've got some experience, perhaps some expertise. Yeah, they might be freaked out initially till they actually see the thing and look at the ripple effect and the results that come from it. I think now with you being a master certified coach, you now have enough of these, whether they're the retreats, these masterminds, or the individual one-on-one, you've got enough behind you now to say, look at my results. Go and talk to any of these people that have gone through it. I actually met people at an event, and we could talk about that in just a little bit, who had just finished a course with you and had signed back up to go through the exact same thing again. And I was like, you just finished it. They're like, yeah, it was life-changing. So I think I always wonder about people that initially are resistant to using any type of a coach, let alone a life coach. But I go, let's take the low end, like you said, maybe $10,000. And they go, I can't afford $10,000. Okay, how much would you spend to change your life? And if somebody is really, really good, to me, that is a great investment, because you could easily show me your personal budget. I bet you I could cut a lot of stuff out that you don't really need. This you could probably use. You probably do need that, whether you know it or not. Once you get into the event, you're probably going, oh, yeah, why didn't I do this earlier, and I want to sign up again? So I'll just tell you, I mean, you have a lot of fans that have gone through and said, yes, please, I want more of her. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really lucky. I haven't ever had anybody only work with me once, and that's them showing up and doing the work, right? Because that's another thing, like, where life coaches, like anything else, are not magic pills, just like a speaker isn't, right? Like a speaker can show up and it can be the best speech that anyone has ever heard in their life. But if you do jack with it, then guess what? Nothing changed and nothing changed.
Yeah.
Can you explain what a life coach does? So, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of people who think it's Chris Farley, screaming at being at a van down by the river on his SNL skit.
Do you think she understands that reference?
She's young, but I think she probably still understands. And if she doesn't, she's going to fake it because she's a pro. Can you explain the type of work that a life coach does?
Yeah. So I think there are all different kinds of life coach. So I'll just speak for myself. Like mine's is very focused. I've created a lot of my own tools. So I've created my own tools on how to self-coach yourself, how to make decisions, how to goal set, how to live a value-driven life with you, Brant, right? Like all of these things to really just live an intentional life. But what happens through all of that work is you become a non-autopilot person in life, right? Like where everything is not just going as it is. You are literally going, if your life is the forest, you're above it and you're now looking down saying, oh, I see that's there and I see that's there and I might want to move some of these things around, and you just become aware of all those different pieces. And then we decide together, all right, I'm going to work on this piece right now. Because that's the other thing. Like life is big, right? Like it can be relationships, health. It can be, I've worked with couples. I've worked with families. Like it's not just women. And so everyone has their own different season that they're in, that they're working on. And so it just gives you that level of awareness to decide to live a different type of life. And some people want that and some people don't.
Yeah. That helps. I think it helps because I think people, again, don't really understand what working with a life coach looks like or what a life coach actually does.
Yeah.
So, as you said, we've watched Melissa not just sort of launch herself into this sort of new career for herself, but invested as well. I mean, she took the classes, she got the certifications, she continues to be educated in all of the latest and greatest things to make sure she's providing her clients with all the latest and greatest things. Mm-hmm. It's a constant learning mindset, which, Jim, I know you are a massive proponent of the never-ending student, right?
Yeah. I mean, I love being the lifelong student.
Amen.
But not just of knowledge in general. I just think of our own craft. Sure. I think the more that I can learn, I'm just going to be a better service to my clients.
I can't just keep teaching you every
No, you've done your best,
You know?
and I've tried to get that pebble out of your hand.
I'm exhausted.
You
know?
keep moving the
I
hand
do.
so fast.
I'm very fast.
Yes.
I'm very fast.
But I think the point that you were making, Melissa, about deciding on a budget, I think as long as people go into it knowing, listen, this isn't the cheapy cheap way. If you're truly interested in making a life change for whatever reason, to enhance your life, get out of bad situations, change careers, whatever it is, it's going to cost you some money. And perhaps, like you said, if their mindset, their budget was, I have $1,500, well, maybe there's a white paper, maybe there's a small little course, a 5-minute video that you can go and watch, and that's it, and that's fine. But knowing full well that between a $10,000 and, like you said, these people that are charging $100,000,
Sure.
you got to think through it's gonna cost you a little bit. But knowing that was your first takeaway, I think you started alluding to the second one. I think if I understood you correctly, is treat it like dating. Is that your second thought that rocks, or was that just an additional one you were adding?
Yeah, no.
Are you trying to give us 4?
I definitely think that this is very important when you're looking for a life coach. Literally treat it like you're dating, okay? I always joke around with the people that I hire. I'm like, oh, I've stalked you for a year. Like, this is, like, I know everything about you. Like, there's nothing new you can tell me here about yourself. I know these things.
Yes.
I really want to make sure that I'm making a very good, smart decision. And if we go back to number 1 about it looking and feeling like an investment, right, and deciding the budget, then this just plays in part with that.
I'm gonna say that maybe more eHarmony and not Tinder, right? Like that's let's be clear.
I don't know what the
treat it like
differences
dating.
are, but I'm going to take your word for it, man.
Well, I don't know either,
Oh, sure.
but I'm just
Okay,
saying.
backtrack all the
from
way
the-
back there. Make sure you.
We laughed when Jim and I created Bookie Call because neither one of us had ever been on a dating app, so we had to watch YouTube videos of people swiping on Tinder to even figure out how the heck these things worked. But I think that mindset of treat it like dating, it's more like, let's call it courting, which sounds it's classier.
Where are you, Pleasantville?
Listen, if you're in your
1950s?
20s and you say treat it like dating, they're going to go, so what? We're going to go smash, and then I'm going to find out their name afterwards.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like that's what it's going to be.
Yes.
So they got to understand it's more of that.
All the baby boomers listening totally understand what you're saying.
Thank
when
you.
say courting.
Thank
That's
you.
Fine.
Everybody knows it's 4 dates. God
Oh,
damn it.
Lord help us.
Yeah, we can end here. Scene.
And scene.
It only took us 18
Melissa,
minutes
your
to get
face
there.
matches your shirt right now.
It did turn super
Did you see
pink.
that?
Look how red it is. That's amazing.
I thought she was Scottish. They have they're way saucier.
She's concerned.
No, I'm very
That's right.
conservative.
Yeah, honey, let's not pretend for anybody listening right now that that's the
It's
case.
just ear.
That's a totally different episode.
Woo!
Where were you going with this?
I was just saying that when you treat it like dating,
Yeah.
it's really about getting to know the person.
Yes.
And it's not maybe the modern view of dating, which is it's not about that. It's just about everything else. So, you've got to spend your time, because I think the worst case scenario is you jump in with both feet and you don't gel at all with the coach, right? Because then it just feels bad. You don't get anything out of it. You feel like you're wasting time, you're wasting money, but now you're committed to something because you paid for it.
Yeah.
So you got to do your due diligence before you decide to jump in with both feet. This is my point.
Yes.
Yeah. So before we jump in maybe to the third thought that rocks, I mean, I threw out a couple things and I was just totally guessing as to why somebody would maybe look for a life coach, let alone the right one, without obviously revealing anything specific. Like, what types of things would people come to you? Like when they call you, email you, say, I've heard about this, what would warrant them? What would drive them to say, I want to sign up for that course?
Yeah. I think the really cool thing about life coaching is a lot of the time they don't know, right? Like that's kind of the magic of the life coaching industry is I get these I feel stuck, I'm not really happy, there's just parts of my life I don't like. And a lot of the time that's what's so cool about the coaching is the ability to see it and like help them see it, right? Like that's sort of what I was talking about with that I'm above here looking down on their life, trying to help them figure it out. But the other part that comes with it, Jim, is people get really brave once they start having a life coach. And I have a couple examples of that. I have a client in New Jersey who, when they came on the first call with me, they said, "Oh, you live in Florida. Like, I've always wanted to live in Florida. Like, Florida's amazing." And it's like summer, and I'm thinking, like, what? Like, it's like 100 degrees outside, but okay. But it's like, for a lot of people, right, that's just sort of where goals and dreaming kind of stops. It's a thought, right? It's a thought that, oh, I'd love to live in a different state, but my family's here. I can't do that. I don't want to. Well, guess what? That person is about to do after 12 months of coaching. They're buying a house in Florida right now. Like, that's just one example of where I keep that little note in my head, and I do different types of coaching with them throughout the year. And then they feel like, you know what? I have a belief in myself. I have bravery. I can move me and my husband and my kids there. No problem. I have another client who was in a job for 20 years, talked about being unhappy in it. It wasn't fulfilling, but I'm just going to do it until retirement because that's what you do, and I want to get blah, blah, blah. Well, a year later, they're no longer in that job. They work somewhere else with more money, with more benefits. And what coaching does is it helps you kind of unpack some of those things and like figure out, like, is this just a thought, or can this actually be a result in my life? And where I land on that, guys. Like, yes. One life. Yeah. One freaking life. What the hell are you going to do with it?
Yeah. You maybe just cleared up something that I thought about. I bet you there are people, I mean, that was probably a little bit of an epiphany for me. If they don't really know what they want and they go through this course and you help them discover that, pull that out of them, that would make me want to go through the second time. Now I've got a clear direction. Now I want to focus on whatever that end result, whether it's moving to Florida or, again, getting out of a relationship or different career path. If I didn't know the first time, the second time, I probably am going to go a little bit deeper, get a little bit more granular. I love that.
I mean, to take the name of your podcast, right? Like Thoughts That Rock. Like a lot of people, guys, their thoughts don't rock, right? They literally don't. Like they believe that these negative thoughts are not true, right? Like they believe like, oh, well, I can't do this or I can't do that, and they don't investigate them. But when you're forced into a coaching situation and there's nowhere you can go for an hour other than have Coach Mama Bear analyze your thoughts with you, I promise you they will rock by the end of the hour. Like it can shift.
That's great. I love it. All right, bring us home. What is the third thought that rocks?
Yes, it's the name of the show.
Yes.
The third thought that rocks is I want for everybody to think about what result they want. I want you to start at the result, right? So the reason why I say that is I want everybody to look at the testimonials of the life coach that they're looking for. If they do not find in the testimonial the result that they think they're looking for in their life, then that's not the right life coach for them. So like, if you look at some of my testimonials, there'll be things like, I feel happier. My relationship is restored. I set boundaries I never thought I could. Like, if these are not things that you need in this season, pick someone else. I promise you will be able to find someone who will be able to give you the result that you're looking for. And so I always say, like, start at the end and kind of work your way backwards.
Yeah. that was going to be one of the things that before I knew this was her third thought, is that, I think going into working with a life coach, they're not going to fix your life. That's not what they do. They're going to ask you what you want. What do you want? And they're going to pick something very specific, and that's what you're going to work towards, so that you've got something, tangible that you can work with and see and have feedback against and sort of check yourself into on a regular basis. And if you don't have that clearly defined want, even if it's not such an incredibly narrow, thing that you pick, but it's something that is in one particular area of your life, you can actually see progress. And so by doing that, you get a chance, I would imagine, Mel, to go a little bit deeper with the person instead of trying to do a surface dive in 8 areas in their life. You do a deep dive in one.
Yeah, I always say, like, imagine your life like a box, all different boxes, and we put them all up on the shelf. And in this season right now, we're going to pick one of those boxes, and together we're going to open it up and dive into it, right? Because in order to feel like we're making progress and having results and winning, like, it can't be all the 8 different areas of the life. Like, it has to be one at a time. And that is how I've seen the best results. And the other thing about what you said, Brant, is if you are with a master certified life coach or someone who has done extensive training like me, obviously I was a lawyer before I was a life coach, right? Like, I know how to pull information out of people. I've been trained to do it. Is we know how to ask the right questions. So you're trained to ask, like, when someone says, I don't know, I know that they really do know, right? And so I will get them to the answer by asking, like, specific questions that, like, the average person doesn't really think about those types of questions. Like, your friend or your girlfriend or your mother is not going to ask you the same questions I ask you, I promise. Like, it is very different.
That's awesome. When you do these retreats, are these, I know you live here in Central Florida, you're in our backyard. Is this here in Central Florida, or are they somewhere else?
No, I have them in South Carolina at what I like to call the Magical Lake House, because that's its name, and it's a very magical, beautiful place. And so I usually have them there, but I am actually going to start having retreats in different places. I'm currently working with a couple therapists to do a couples retreat in the future. So there are, I mean, you can go anywhere in the world and do retreats, which is beautiful. Oh, you guys are going to come on my couple retreat? Okay.
No, you don't need this dysfunction.
Oh, is it Jesus? It's probably different than what I was saying.
It needs more than a retreat. It needs duct tape and,
But I love
So you do interventions.
I love the retreats. I always do, like, a challenge during the retreat. So we go, like, whitewater rafting or zip lining. Like, we do something to get everybody out of their comfort zone. And I call that, like, creating evidence, because that's kind of part of my coaching process. Is I want to be able to show them that they can do things like the challenge, so that when they have to have the difficult conversation with their spouse or a family member, that they have that reminder that they already have evidence they can do difficult things.
Yeah.
I love it. You know, one of the things that I learned in this last course that I had taken was there's really only 3 ways to change your beliefs. Right. And so the first is to find proof that you've done something similar in the past. Right. That's the first. The second is to watch someone else who has done it and see for yourself that it's possible. And then the third is to find a credible source and believe them. And so I think that one of the beauty sort of advantages of working with Mel is that she gives you all 3, right? She'll find the proof in your life that you've done something similar to believe that it's possible. The second thing is she does a lot of work in groups so that you can see it working in other people, right? So you can see that it's actually, it might not be happening for you at this moment, but it is happening for someone else. So it's possible. Look at this. It's working. Let them talk. Let them connect on that level to see that it's possible. And then the third part is her herself. I mean, she is the credible resource that you should be talking to. And so I think that when people come out of, at least, you know, from my experience of listening and watching people who have worked with her, they come out with all 3 of those things. They come out with proof. They come out with seeing it with their own eyes in other areas. And then they come out with her, not just as a coach, but as somebody who is connected on such a level, on a deeper level now, that has a genuine care for them on a different level. it makes it a heck of a lot easier to believe in yourself when you have someone like that in your life.
Yeah. Well, and that's evident in the testimonials. I mean, when you go and look at what people are saying,
yes,
and why they keep coming back to the well, I mean, it's evident. It certainly isn't. I'm hanging out for a couple days and doing some kumbaya. Like, there's some real.
We should
meat to
film
the bone.
testimonials that are just complete fabrications,
Just to bring the numbers
and
down?
stick it in her social media somewhere. That'd be like,
I'm sure
I
she'd
work
love
with
that.
Mel at this lake house. Let me tell you something.
Oh God. I love it.
sure she would love
I
that.
feel very, very lucky that I get to do it every day, And I think I love what
Yeah.
you shared there, Brant, because I talk a lot about you, especially when you're not around, not when you're usually in front of me, but I talk a lot about the influence that you've had in my life, which was you believing in me. And I remember when you said to me, oh, listen, like, this is just the beginning for you. Just wait. You're going to be a speaker. You're going to be a coach. And I swear, hand on the Bible, thought you were a freaking lunatic. I was like, this man
That's
needs to
pretty accurate.
step away from the whiskey bar. And right, like, I honestly, and that's why
pretty
I
accurate.
love this work so much, because I literally had you do it to me and say, Mel, listen, and you built it into me. You worked with me, you worked with me, and now I truly believe it. Like, it's inside of me now. Like, I'm doing the work, I'm doing the
That's
coaching, I'm doing the speaking. But it started with someone else believing in me. And sometimes that's just what it takes. And sometimes that is the role of a coach. Not always, but sometimes it's, let me just show you that, like, this is possible for you.
Yeah.
You're not taking the pebble. This is bullshit. I'm not ready to give you the pebble. So you can keep trying, but let me tell you something. Not yet.
Neither one of us. Well, I mean, you think about all the stuff we talked about in the introduction and just knowing what Melissa's background is. And really, you've always been influential in just about everything that you've touched. Obviously, the foundation that you started, we support that here on Thoughts That Rock. And just seeing you in this new phase and what you're doing has been really inspiring for us. But to see that it's not just a fun little hobby for you, it's actually successful and you're changing people's lives is right up our alley. It's just, it's exciting. So the three things we had here: decide on a budget, treat it like dating, and start at the result. You know, we force everybody to focus on three thoughts, but obviously there's a lot more. Where could people get in touch with you if they wanted to maybe learn a little bit more about what you do, or maybe whether they were going to be like, yes, I'm ready to hire a life coach today, or maybe go on one of these retreats? Where should people check you out?
So if people want to start dating me, the best place to do that
Love it.
is on Instagram, okay? That is where you should go. You should watch my stories, see if you like my energy and my vibe, right? Because not everybody's going to love a happy Scottish person. That might not be for you, okay? And if it's not, that's okay. I'm fine with it, right? So I would say go there. And then obviously I have my own podcast, Coaching and a Cup of Tea with Mama Bear. And then on my website, you can find all of my offerings. You can find my retreats, my 6-month mastermind, and I'm probably not taking any more one-on-one clients right now, but we shall see later in the year, maybe.
Awesome. Well, we'll obviously have all this in the show notes, the podcast, the website, your Instagram. This is a joy for us. I mean, not just because it's the second time around, again, because we know you so well. And, yeah, you guys go way back for sure. I know the work that you did at CKC and spending time in the office was really just the start of you guys doing some stuff together. And we're just happy for you. We're very, very happy for your success.
I'm very grateful for both of you, and I love your podcast. Thank you for having me back. I feel very honored to be back, and I'm grateful for you, Brant Mainswar.
Oh,
That's awesome.
You know,
She
I love
clearly
you.
likes one of us better than the other,
That's
but it's
the
fine.
truth.
I'm okay with it. I know my role.
suck it. Yes.
I'm back here in the background. It's fine.
Wait.
And he's gone.
We love you.
I love you
Thank you
guys.
so much.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon.
Rock on.
Hey, rock stars, thanks so much for tuning in.
Yeah, and listen, we know how busy you are, and grabbing those little nuggets of wisdom that can amp up your life are super hard to come by. So we hope this episode helped you enough for you to maybe subscribe and consider leaving us a rating and a review so that we can continue to grow the show.
Thus That Rock is a proud member of the Evergreen Podcast Network and also supports Cannonball Kids Cancer and their fight for finding and funding treatment options for kids who have run out of options. They're amazing. Their work is incredible. To learn more, please go to cannonballkidscancer.org.
Finally, if you're interested in having Brant or Jim or both of us speak at your event, whether as a virtual webinar or an in-person conference keynote or mastermind, contact us directly at thoughtsatrock.com.
Until next time,
Rock on!